When we think of prisons and jails, we picture a hard physical boundary. We assume that the heavy steel doors and thick concrete walls are designed to do one thing: keep the dangerous elements securely on the inside, leaving the rest of us safely on the outside. But 3 different people learned exactly how porous that boundary really is. An 18-year-old shoplifter sent to county jail for the weekend, 2 friends exploring an abandoned cell block, and a newly hired corrections officer who had just moved thousands of miles across the country. They all made the exact same mistake. They assumed their exposure to the inside was strictly temporary, and that the moment they walked back out, the walls would resume protecting them. These facilities are environments of intense, constant observation. The people inside have endless hours to study and wait for any personal detail they can exploit. Crossing that threshold creates a psychological tether. An opportunistic predator can use that brief proximity as leverage to reach out of their cell and follow you back into your real life. This close quarters confinement is exactly what the 18-year-old faced. Locked in a stark, cramped cell like the one you see here, he was forced into immediate proximity with an older cellmate named Bob. Bob used that tight space to methodically extract personal details, asking persistent, invasive questions about where the teen lived and who he lived with. That same predatory isolation exists even when a facility is completely empty. Looking at the massive stone exterior of this abandoned prison, you can see how far removed it is from help. When 2 friends broke in to explore, they encountered a man named Mike. Mike confidently presented himself as a security guard, using the imposing environment to establish immediate authority over them. He then weaponized the labyrinth-like architecture of the decaying building. Under the guise of escorting them safely to the exit, he actively steered the girls deeper into the structure, attempting to walk them down a pitch-black, narrow staircase into a basement. Even those officially in charge are not immune. A corrections officer relies on the institutional power dynamic shown in historical photos like this, where the uniform represents absolute authority and a barrier between the guard and the guarded. An inmate named Edgar dismantled that barrier with a few casual sentences. Over several weeks, Edgar cheerfully asked the new corrections officer how his brother Stan was doing, and if his mother Diana still lived out by the lake. As this diagram illustrates, jails run on an invisible underground data broker system. Isolated data points like public records, names, and home addresses are traded through gossip networks, flowing directly from the outside into a central cell block, allowing an inmate to compile a complete dossier. The officer searched Edgar's file and confirmed he had 0 prior connections to his hometown. Edgar hadn't stumbled onto this information. He had actively hunted for it. The penal system creates an ideal hunting ground. It deliberately strips away a person's normal social defenses, leaving them exposed to individuals who have nothing but time to study them. Eventually, the victims in these scenarios all returned to the outside world, breathing a sigh of relief. They believed the danger was locked safely behind them. That relief shattered for the teenager a few days after his release. He opened a direct message on Instagram from a fake account, featuring a selfie of his former cellmate, Bob, with the caption, "Miss you already." 2 days later, the teenager came home to a foggy suburban street and found a ratty, unfamiliar car parked directly across from his house. Inside the car, sitting completely motionless, was the dark silhouette of a man staring right at his front door. After the teen rushed inside and locked himself in, the active home invasion attempt began. He stood in his kitchen, listening as the front doorknob was violently twisted back and forth. Seconds later, the back doorknob began rattling. For the corrections officer, the breach happened months after his unsettling interactions at the jail. At 2 a.m, an alert popped up on his phone from his home security camera. Standing on his porch in the dead of night, wearing a hood and a massive smile, was Edgar. Looking directly into the lens, the paroled inmate softly asked if anyone was home, claiming he was simply going door to door selling meat. But as the officer watched the feed, Edgar turned and walked away on foot, disappearing into the darkness without a vehicle in sight. A month later, a similarly built man showed up late at night at the officer's girlfriend's house, confirming this was a calculated stalking campaign. The safety of their own homes was compromised. The very system built to isolate these individuals had handed them a direct, physical route right to their victims' front doors. The immediate physical threats eventually dissipated. The girls sprinted out of the abandoned prison, the teenager secured a restraining order, and Edgar vanished. But the psychological damage set in permanently. We can see the exact systemic flaw that enables this in this flowchart. The second a person is processed through a jail booking system, their information connects directly to public internet records, creating a clear, searchable path right to a target's home address. It takes almost no friction at all. A single slip of a real first name, or a brief mention of a hometown during cell block small talk, is all the ammunition required to bypass the physical walls of the prison and lock directly onto a target. Because of this, the victims are left to live in a state of constant paranoia. The corrections officer still struggles to sleep out of fear for his mother's safety, while the teenager carries a heavy trauma from what should have been a minor shoplifting charge. A single booking record bridges the gap between a locked cell and a private residence. The penal system provides the documentation a predator needs to find you, long after the heavy doors have opened.